Hello, my name is Cindy Garcia, and this is my Week 3 presentation on Concepts in Economics for the MPA 585 Political Economy class. For this presentation, I'm going to be talking about 3 different concepts from the Economics of the Public Sector book, and then I'm also going to be talking about 3 other concepts that I picked up from the lecture videos provided throughout these 3 weeks. I'll begin by talking about 3 different concepts from the Economics of the Public Sector book. The first concept that I chose is called property rights. This is located in chapter 6, page 133 of the book. Property rights are the legal ownership of resources and how they can be used. They can be tangible or intangible, and they're owned by either individuals, businesses, or the government. And because private property rights are protected under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution and private and intellectual property rights are well known, I do think that the average American has a good understanding of this concept. Crop farming is an example of property rights because the piece of land where the crop farming is at is owned by individuals, and the production of the crops are used then to gain profit. The next concept that I'm going to be talking about is called poverty index. Poverty index is located in chapter 7, page 185 of the book. And poverty index measures the ratio of the population whose income lies below a specific threshold. Those who are below that threshold are considered to be in poverty. And so because individuals all work for a certain income or strive to work for a better income, I think that the average American has always had a good understanding of the concept behind poverty index and the threshold. Unfortunately, the pandemic we're currently facing is a good example that incorporates poverty index because of the high percentage of unemployment and people falling under that poverty level. The last concept that I'm going to be talking about from the book is in chapter 8, page 200, and this concept is on privatization. Privatization refers to the transfer of ownership and property or business from the government sector to the private sector. So personally, I think that not every individual is aware of the privatization concept and how it works, but I think that they should, simply because of the benefits that privatization brings. Like, for example, it increases flexibility, efficiency, innovation, and it also saves money for the taxpayers. An example of privatization would be the well-known student loan lender called Sallie Mae. Sallie Mae started off as a federal government-sponsored lender, and then later on it converted to a private business lender company. Moving on to the lecture videos that we've been watching throughout these 3 weeks, the first concept that I want to talk about is on macroeconomics. In the Macroeconomics Crash Course Economics number 5 video that we watched in week 2, at about 20 seconds into the video, they talk about the meaning behind macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is a study of the entire economy as a whole and not as individual markets. I would say that the average American does not have a good understanding of this term, or that they even know that there's another concept called microeconomics that studies the consumers and the workers. I think that if everybody had a good understanding of this, they would be able to understand more why things happen in our economy. An example of macroeconomics would be the different types of goods and their supply and demand in the different types of market conditions. The second concept that I picked from the lecture videos is called the free rider problem. In week 3's video lecture called Public Goods, Externalities, and Market Goods, at about 3 minutes and 38 seconds into the video, they talk about the meaning of the free rider problem. The free rider problem is an economic concept of market failure that happens when people are benefiting from the resources, goods, and services that they didn't pay for. The free rider problem is definitely a concept that most Americans are familiar with or understand. The reason why I say this is because there's a lot of public goods in our economy that are just simply being taken advantage of by the individuals who don't pay into it. National defense is a critical example of the free rider problem. The government is mandated to provide defenses to all of its citizens, regardless of how much they contribute in their taxes. Even those who refuse to pay into their taxes are still provided with national defense. The third and last concept from the video lectures that I chose is recession. In week 3, in the video called Recession, Hyperinflation, and Stagflation, Crash Course Economics number 13, at about 5 minutes and 10 seconds into the video, they talk about the Great Depression and about recession. Recession is a significant economic downturn spread across the entire economy. It's defined as a period when the GDP declines for 2 consecutive quarters. High percentage of unemployment, lower wages and income, the falling of retail stores, and slowed manufacturing growth were all indicators of a recession. When it comes to recession, I'm confident that all Americans are aware of this concept. The U.S. faced many recession periods, but the most memorable event that everyone is familiar with would be the Great Depression, which lasted from 1929 to 1938. And then the Great Recession that hit from 2008 to 2009. Because the Great Recession is so current, this is why I say every American has a good understanding of it. All the concepts that I've talked about in this presentation are tied down together in economics, like poverty index and recession. When unemployment drastically rises, the number of individuals that fall under that poverty index threshold increases. So when we're faced with the recession, there are many more people that fall under that poverty level. This concludes my presentation on the concepts of economics. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I look forward to your feedback. Thanks.